What's up, guys? This is Crazy Awesome, and I'm gonna tell you it is 5 whole years. It has been 5 years of me being a YouTuber from the day that I actually first created my channel when I was a very young and weird 14-year-old boy. But it's been 14 years from the day since I actually became a YouTuber, and this is my hot takes video, and I did just want to say thank you really quick. I'm going to go into depth later in the video, but you know, we have some hot takes for you. I want to just read off a lot of the hot takes that kind of were just suggestions that a lot of people gave me. I was going to address my channel first, my 5-year anniversary, so stick around for that. But I'm going to do the hot takes. They're called hot takes for a reason, right? Like I don't want to just not do the hot takes. We got to get them while they're hot, okay? So you all gave me a bunch of hot takes. I'm gonna read like every single one, and I waited a few weeks to do this because I asked you all for your most unpopular musical opinions / hot takes. And it can be literally anything. So we got this first comment, which is going to be very interesting because we start off with a pretty big hot take, and they told me that Nevermind is not that good of an album. Now this one's an interesting one because, you know, and just in case you're not sure, just from the name of it, this comment is referring to Nirvana's Nevermind, the one with the floating baby on the cover. So believe it or not, I've actually never heard the album all the way through. I had never heard it and actually went to go listen to it on my own time and listen to the whole thing. And I listened to it, and I think it's one of those things that it sounded better like in the era. Like if you were in the 90s experiencing this for the first time, that I truly do think that it's probably sounded a lot better, but I understand why now listening to it can be much more awkward. But I listened to the whole thing, and it's somewhat cohesive. Very messy. I'm gonna say and I don't mean messy in a bad way. I just mean messy in like that's like its forte, you know, per se. It's like when you're gonna eat a meal and you know it's gonna be very messy, but that doesn't mean it's gonna be bad. You just know it's gonna be very all over the place and very like creative, and you know. But I listened to the whole record, and to be honest, I'm kind of torn. I almost agree and disagree with this actually. I somewhat agree with you with it not really being my style particularly. There are some moments of the album where I feel like are kind of weird, and they're not. It's definitely not a bad record, and I kind of see where you're coming from because people praise Nirvana. People praise like the hell out of Nirvana as like the greatest band ever, like the greatest rock band of the 90s, the 80s, and like, you know, a lot of people like praise Nirvana like so much. So I definitely get it. I really understand where they're coming from because Nirvana is like one of the biggest rock bands. Even now, like even like the newer generation would still probably, most of them are still probably agree that Nirvana is like one of the top rock artists. And I think I somewhat agree with you from I guess from a personal perspective. I didn't really find anything that was like, I guess, insanely amazing. Like it was some cool stuff, but as I said, you have to consider what it was for its time, because in the 90s there's a lot less experimental music going out there. There's a lot less music that was like, so well, they became mainstream after a while, and then you know, they blew up, and it was very rare to hear like songs like that were so like messy and not like just messy and all over the place. And I feel like it brought that unique aesthetic that a lot of people are kind of looking for. And so I understand for that reason. For me personally, I do find it to maybe be just it's like a tad bit overrated. So I'm gonna say I kind of agree. I guess it depends on what you mean by like that good of an album. I still think it's a good album. I do. I don't think it's like, for like in 2024, I can only judge it from my perspective. I can't judge it like back in the 90s because I wasn't there for that time. You know, I can only judge it for me being in the now. So I'm just gonna say that I did enjoy the record. There was a few moments on the album that were a little weird, and I was like, okay, what's going on here? What was it? Endless Nameless, like the last song on the album. I think that's the name of the song. That was just basically like noise rock, I believe, which kind of has a very messy feeling to it, everything going crazy. It's like everyone just kind of got their frustrations out. Smells Like Teen Spirit, obviously, like the big classic, the big hit of the album, as well as Come As You Are, huge songs. He had a lot of huge songs that came out of that record, which is cool. And then and I like a Territorial Pissings as well. Like that one is just a nice, that's probably one of my favorite songs of the album. It's just a nice, fun little rocker. I like that one. And then there are a few other ones too that I'm probably forgetting about, but it was a good record. And I don't think it was anything absolutely outstanding. I think I'm just gonna say I think I do agree with you. I don't think that the album is like that fantastic in today's modern, I guess in today's like type of music. I think it's still good. I think it's really good, but I think it's one of those things where it's like, you know, this sounds a little messy, this sounds a little rocky, and sometimes it's in a really good way, sometimes it's in his voice is very grainy and it's very heavy, and I guess for me personally that's not what I prefer, like sometimes, because it sounds very, I don't know, like his voice is very grainy, and it's not a bad thing. I don't think it's like a bad thing. I just don't think, for me personally, it's what I would prefer to listen to. So I'm gonna agree with you here. I'm gonna say that Nevermind, I don't think it's an amazing record. I think it's a pretty good album, and I think what it did for music in general is very amazing, and I think that it absolutely like paved a beautiful path for a lot of bands and artists. So for that reason, I'll say it's amazing. But the music itself, if we're ignoring what Nirvana did and Nirvana's legacy and ignoring the people in itself, like we're just judging it off the musical quality, I would say it's pretty good, but I don't really think it's like anything like 10 out of 10 or anything like that. So I do think it's maybe a tad bit overrated, but not super overrated. There's much more overrated stuff. And speaking about overrated, there's this take that JoJo Siwa is overrated. I can't really speak much about this. I actually haven't heard JoJo Siwa, so yeah, do not I haven't actually heard JoJo Siwa. I barely even know who JoJo Siwa is, so I can't really speak on this, so I'm kind of just gonna skip over this, but let me know if I should just listen to JoJo Siwa. I don't know. Anyways, and now we have this other comment which they said Bon Jovi is better than Van Halen. Now what a take. This is actually a really interesting one, because like Bon Jovi and Van Halen, I feel like are pretty different, like musically, and I guess as far as I don't know, I feel like I like Bon Jovi, I like Van Halen. I feel like with both bands, I haven't really dug super deep into I think I've probably dug deeper into like Van Halen stuff rather than Bon Jovi, but I do have to say I can see where you're coming from. Like if you just think of like the main, I guess the main meat of I guess like Bon Jovi's main meat is like Living on a Prayer and Wanted Dead or Alive, and oh man, what's that other song? Yeah, what's their other song? You Give Love a Bad Name, Blaze of Glory, all great songs and really catchy. And then you have Van Halen with like Jump, and the song about the teacher that we can't talk about. But then there's also Panama, which is pretty fun. And honestly, I mean, I think I kind of prefer, like, if you're just talking about heavy hitters, I can't really speak too much about this because I haven't done a deep enough like dive into you know, both bands, but I think I actually kind of enjoy listening to like Bon Jovi stuff more, just because it's just kind of fun and poppy, and I like poppy choruses and fun stuff like what Bon Jovi does. I don't know, it just feels more fun. Like I don't know how to describe it except for just say it feels more fun. So I'll just say I kind of agree. I agree with you. I'll say yeah, I'll just say Bon Jovi for me is better than Van Halen. I'll just say yeah. And another comment said this is really gonna cause a lot of people to like just be, I don't know how you guys are gonna feel about this, but One Direction is a good band. Sue me. So all I can say is hell yes. I don't care. Like, dude, One Direction, like, okay, I to anyone that disagrees, I need you to do me a favor and re-listen to What Makes You Beautiful. Like that is a fun song. That is such a fun song, and I mean, I'm biased. Listen, I'm biased as heck. I grew up like in that era, and I know it's like the whole like, you know, boy band thing, girl, go with me, and, you know, girl, take my love, and no one will treat you the way. But I don't. It's just done in such a fresh, like, it still sounds good. Like, that's the most impressive thing about it, is that it did not age really badly. It actually still sounds very fresh even in 2024, which is really impressive. But dude, One Direction, when you can turn your brain off and just have some mindless fun with One Direction, like, it is a blast. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, One Direction is a good band. And I'll actually say, yeah, I would like 100% agree with that. One Direction is a great band. I have to say thank you to my girlfriend for just giving me that hot take, because yeah, One Direction is a really good band, and I feel like, I mean, they're not really anything like amazing, I guess, if you want to look at it from a side of technical, like, you know, they're just a boy. I mean, they're a boy band. They're a male pop band that, you know, just does a lot. But that is why they're so fun, because it's not serious. It's just so fun, man. Just put on some One Direction. And I love a lot of the songs, but What Makes You Beautiful is, like, I feel like just the pinnacle. I feel like that's just, like, I don't know, it just has a special place in my heart. Like, I listened to it the other day and it actually sounded so good. I agree with this. One Direction, they get too much hate. Like, I like One Direction. They're so fun, but it's like, I love One Direction. They're great. So now this next hot take is actually going to be very interesting. This is a metal hot take, which they said Metallica continues to disappoint as a metal band. Last album was Injustice for All. Last great album was Injustice for All. This is from South of Heaven. Yeah, this is a really interesting take because, well, I have heard a lot of Metallica, especially, like, I mean, I've played through a lot of their albums on this channel. I've played through Master of Puppets. I've played through And Justice for All, Ride the Lightning, 72 Seasons. That's like four whole albums I've kind of played through on this channel. And the early ones, I have to say, were a lot better than, like, 72 Seasons. I've heard, like, some of their later albums as well. And they said the last great album was And Justice for All, which I find very interesting, which I'm actually going to see And Justice for All, because when did And Justice for All come out? That's not very, I think it's sometime in the 90s. No, 80s. Okay. Wow, in the 80s. Let's see. Yeah, so 1988. Wow, okay, that's pretty good. So I'm just gonna say that I'm going to take out of this comment that they said they continue to disappoint as a metal band. I guess I would say I agree if you're looking for, like, heaviness and, like, to get heavier and, like, riffs and stuff. I do think that they kind of got lighter and it more so as, like, a rock kind of feel rather than actually, like, you know, like metal, like Metallica, you know, not really. Like, as they got later into the career, they started producing more songs, I would say, kind of lean on the spectrum of not really rock, like, not really metal per se, but more so rock, and more so like rock and hard rock than, like, metal. So, like, if you want metal from Metallica, then yeah, I would say I would agree that I think they are disappointing some people that are looking for a heavier sound. And I actually think that some of the quality of their music has overall gone down. And I feel like the writing for me is at least getting a little too stale. Just listen to 72 Seasons. It just sounds like they're just repeating the same ideas with just a lot less excitement and a lot less, like, technical paralysis, and just a lot more I don't know. I mean, I definitely don't hate it by any means, but for me it's just kind of bland and mediocre. Like, listening to 72 Seasons just kind of felt like eating an uncooked well, not uncooked, eating a unseasoned well-cooked chicken. Like, the chicken is done, you have salt and pepper on it, but that's all you're getting. And it's like, you'll still take it over nothing, but it's like, it just feels a little bland, you know? Like, I don't know, and it just doesn't really feel like metal too much, so I agree with this. But I actually don't think that them not being super metal is not, I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is just better songwriting. Like, I feel like Metallica's been, like, declining over the years, and I know they're older now, and, you know, I don't really have too much hate for Metallica, but, you know, it's like, whatever. And oh, by the way, stick around for I'm gonna share my hot takes with you at some point, probably when I'm done with all the other hot takes. So anyway, so we're just gonna keep on trucking. I think but I'll say I agree with you. I'll say yes, I think as a metal band, I think Metallica is disappointing a little bit. Now, Now this one, let's see. Meteora is Linkin Park's worst album. I'll have to come back to this one because I actually did not listen to Meteora. I've actually never heard it, so I'll have to come back to this hot take. So I can't really add anything on that, so I'll have to just go listen to it. Now this one is really interesting. Wonderwall, Oasis is Wonderwall, obviously, is overhated. Now this is interesting. And it's important to note that someone said, honestly, I think it's more of a joke than a meme, which I think is true. But also I think the other thing to understand is, like, some people actually do hate Wonderwall. Like, there are some people out there that genuinely despise. Dude, he hates Wonderwall. What's his name? Like, is it Noel Gallagher or is it Liam Gallagher? Like, one of the Gallaghers, I can't remember. But he hates Wonderwall himself, which I find hilarious. Like, he actually hates it because it overshadows anything he does. Like, whenever he comes to the United States or wherever he just does anything. He said this himself. He's like, wherever I come to the States, I'm just the Wonderwall guy. Like, ooh, it's Wonderwall guy. So I kind of understand that. But yeah, so he is the Wonderwall guy, like, in the States, which I find just kind of funny. And I don't know. I kind of agree with. I think it's a fine song. I don't think Wonderwall is awful by any means. To the people that say it's actually awful, I think they are, like, massively overhating it. Like, Wonderwall is kind of harmless. I mean, I think at worst it's like average or maybe slightly below average. I don't think it's anything horrible though. It's not anything offensive or terrible. At its absolute worst, and I think at its best, I think it's a pretty good, like, love ballad. You're gonna be the one that saves me, and after all, you're my Wonderwall. You know, I think it's a pretty, I think at best it's a pretty, like, decent love ballad, and I think at worst, I think it's just average, slightly below average maybe. But I would agree with you. I think Wonderwall is actually overhated. But yes, it is a big meme on the internet though. Like, there are so many memes with Wonderwall, just, you know, the Wonderwall guy, or, you know, the chords of Wonderwall. So yeah, the joke is there, but there are actually people who do despise Wonderwall, and I do think those people are overhating it. So yeah, that's a good hot take. That's a good one. I actually agree with you. So now this hot take is actually one of my favorites that was submitted. This is by Left Behind, which they said, personally, I think people care too much about what's for better or worse, the worst or the best in music. I can almost always see why people like certain music. There's not much musicians I consider trash. I personally agree with this, and I think this is a really beautiful it's a really beautiful sentiment. And let's just say, and, you know, because I feel like there are some people that just get into heated debates about what's the best and what's the worst. And, you know, for me personally, I just do this to share my personal just opinions with you all, because I think it's very interesting to do. I think it's interesting to hear why people love specific bands so much, and why people, you know, why people don't care for bands, why people do care for bands. I just think it's interesting to hear. And I think a lot of you all too, like a lot of my audience thinks it's very interesting to hear, like, why I dislike a song or why I like a song. And I just enjoy it. I enjoy sharing my opinions with you all, and that's all fun and games. But there's some very toxic people that actually do care, like, so much about, like, hey, why do you dislike this, or why do you love this, or why do you hate this, you know? And then they get into a really heated, like, if you're just talking, you're just trying to make conversation and understand more about this thing, then that's totally fine. But if you are trying to insult people for their taste in music, and you're trying to just music is not a competition of who has the best taste in music. Like, it really is not, because there is no best taste. It's all subjective. Like, you can never be objectively listening to anything, because you always have your subjective viewpoint. So yeah, I completely agree with that assessment. That is a really beautiful assessment. Like, people care way too much. I think it's nice to hear opinions and such. Like, it's really nice to hear opinions, but I think it's like, people get, like, way too involved, and they get way too upset. Like, they get so upset, like, when sometimes people don't like specific bands or songs. And I do think people care sometimes, like, way too much about what's the worst or what's the best. Because here on this channel, I only want to do this just for comparison purposes, just for fun, just for entertainment, just so you can hear my opinion, so I can hear your opinion, just for discussion purposes, just so we can share our different ways of thinking, because that's how you learn more and more and more, just by sharing your thoughts with the world, and sharing your thoughts to other people. And yeah, whenever I critique something, whenever I grade something, whenever I give something a score, a ranking, it is not for me actually caring whether I dislike or I like the song. It is just so for you all to understand my perspective and my point of view, and just so I can contribute my personal opinion to the world. Let's see. And okay, so now I'm gonna read this next comment, which is going to be pretty interesting. And I just want to say that this one is one that I can't really talk about too much, because they said, I walked out of a Rolling Stones concert in the middle because it bored me. I was there to see Guns N' Roses in living color, which I find pretty interesting. I have not heard a lot of Rolling Stones. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I have. I wasn't around for that main era of Rolling Stones, and I feel like it's very unfair for me to judge them because I was not around for their prime, so it's hard for me to come like in 2024 and only being able to listen to them now, like right now, like, and just be like, yeah, you know, I agree, feel like they're boring. But you know, I've actually got a few comments like this that Rolling Stones is overrated and they're kind of boring, so I think I just gonna have to mostly like take your word for it. But I do think that they are genuinely, I don't know, I've heard like Painted Black is a big one. I think I've heard probably the most. I think I've heard Gotta Get Away as well. I had a few other big hits as well, but it's like I haven't heard enough Rolling Stones to judge it. But I mean, there's nothing amazing, like nothing spectacular I've heard. But they are so praised, and it's like one of the best bands of all time. So yeah, I think I'm just go ahead. I don't really know much, but I'm just gonna go ahead and agree with you and say I don't think Rolling Stones is all that good. And then this hot take, Blur is better than Oasis. I'm just gonna say no, I don't think so. Probably not. I mean, I've only heard a few Blur songs, but Oasis, I heard quite a few Oasis songs. And I've heard a few Blur songs, and I just can't see Blur being better than Oasis. I just like a lot of the things better in Oasis so far. So I don't think I agree with you so far. We're going to see if that changes later when I check out some more Blur, check out some more Oasis, and have some more fair comparisons. So I guess my sample size is not accurate right now, but yeah, I will let you know if that changes. But this last one is like one of my favorite hot takes. Modern Paramore is better than old Paramore. So I actually did a video. If you guys were quick enough, you might have saw it for like maybe 15-20 minutes. I did a video where I compared modern Paramore to old Paramore because of this very comment, and I tried to do the video, but YouTube ended up blocking it, and then so it's like, oh, well, that's fantastic. So I did the video again. I edited it so the visuals of the videos were not in the video, and I uploaded it, and YouTube said it was fine. Then 30 minutes later, they blocked it in altered territory. So yeah, that video is no longer on the channel right now. So that's just kind of sad. It's like whatever. But yeah, you know, like it's like I listened to 3 modern Paramore songs and 3 old Paramore songs, which I think the 3 old ones were like Decode, yeah, what is it? See, Decode and Pressure and Misery Business. I think the new ones that I listened to ended up being like Rose Colored Boy, which is somewhat like new Paramore, kind of, sort of. This Is Why, which is another one, and then The News, which is cool. Which, those are the songs I just kind of compare. I kind of picked random songs. But I would agree. So, but I was able to actually assess like what modern Paramore is and what old Paramore is. So I think modern Paramore is more like dancey, kind of like disco, like funk, kind of like more like funky, not really rock. And old Paramore is more so like the emotional rock, kind of some of it is like I would say like emo rock. Some of it, like a Misery Business, is kind of reminds me of that, you know. Yeah, there are quite a few songs from their old discography that reminds me of a lot of emo music, My Chemical Romance, Linkin Park, Green Day type stuff. But I listened to it. I actually agree with you, and I'm gonna say that Rose Colored Boy is probably like one of the best Paramore songs. I love Rose Colored Boy so much, and I feel like it's somehow like underrated. I don't know why. I just feel like it kind of is. It's like I love the happy contrast with the sad lyrics, and I love the meaning of the song behind it. It is like it's absolutely beautiful. And I believe I have like one more hot take, and I may have like 1 or 2 more, because, and it's really very interesting because I saw this hot take and I was like, wow, this is like, this is crazy. And I asked him if he wanted to include this comment in my hot takes video. So yeah, I'm including this in my hot takes video. So they commented Green Day. Okay, Green Day suck and would not know what punk is if punk spat on them. And then I actually want to include in the hot takes music video, and they said please do, which is cool. So here's what I have to say about this. I'm actually very mixed about this comment. Green Day would not know what punk was if it spat them in the face. And I'm actually gonna say that I think that for me the biggest part I think that I could dislike about, and I'm very nostalgic for Green Day. Listen, like Green Day was like one of the first bands I really got into when I was actually learning guitar, and I played a lot of their songs, a lot of their albums, and I really got into Green Day. I went through, I guess, kind of a Green Day phase at some point. Kind of got out of it, started listening to more interesting stuff. But here's the thing about Green Day is that I guess like Billy Joe Armstrong has a very big ego, and I think that's one of the things I think I dislike the most about Green Day probably. He can have a very big ego. Sometimes, most of the time it's fine, but sometimes he just says some things or he just does some things and I'm like, oh my god, dude, like why are you doing this? But yeah, but not knowing what punk is, like if it spat them in the face, like those were their words. And I can kind of see where you're coming from, because I think early Green Day is actually, I guess this is a hot take in itself, I think early Green Day's production is much better than their later production. Well, and I guess I shouldn't say better, I will say more punky. It feels like more the point of like punk music. I feel like in the 90s, 2000, early 2000s, I feel like that the mixing was amazing. And I was really good. Especially, I think my favorite was actually probably off the album, what was it, Kerplunk, the one with the girl on the cover. Yeah, like Kerplunk was, at least I think it was Kerplunk. I do want to check, but Kerplunk, which I believe was the, yep, it was Kerplunk, okay. That was the album that Green Day released that had a lot of really fun songs on there. And had one of my favorite Green Day songs, Dominated Love Slave. And actually, this is where Welcome to Paradise came out on. Welcome to Paradise was actually on this album before it was on Dookie, which is really interesting. And not all people actually know that, which is very cool. But I think this album has fantastic production. I actually prefer it much more than the production on American Idiot. I think the production on American Idiot is still good. I still think it's fine, but I guess it does kind of fight against, like if you want to go from, if you want to look at the roots of punk music and you want to look at, like, you know, how it originated and the sound, like most important, like the sound of punk music and the lyricism of punk music, then for me, I think their, like Kerplunk, like a lot of their early stuff was probably a much better representation of punk music than their later music. And yeah, and a few of their songs later that they ended up making, kind of, some of them could kind of show a big ego. But I don't think, I disagree. I don't think Green Day suck. I see where you're coming from, because like, yeah, sure, you can say like they're more corporate. And you know, of course, like I do think it's kind of ironic that they like rebel against the system and then they kind of became the system. But that's like a lot of bands, right? It's kind of like Rage Against the Machine as well. But you know, I don't think Green Day suck. I actually got to disagree with you there. They don't suck. They have a lot of really very memorable songs, and they have. I do think they're maybe a tad bit overrated. They're good. Very good. They have some amazing songs like Green in their catalog, but also they have some really bad stinkers as well. And they also have a lot of mid songs. They have a lot of mediocre. I think they have more mediocre songs than like awful songs, and they do have some good songs. So I'm gonna say like Green Day is like just maybe a tad bit overrated. I don't think they suck, so I'll have to disagree with you there. But thank you for sharing your opinion. I really appreciate it. It's very interesting to hear that. But I get where you're coming from. I definitely understand where you're coming from. As for a true punk perspective, Green Day isn't really punk. I don't know, they just don't really, well, they used to be, but ever since, like, just they changed a lot of things, they're starting to get less punk and more just mainstream rock. But they constantly refer to themselves as like punk, like the saviors of punk. And it's like, I don't know, I don't think they're all of that. I don't think they're the saviors of punk. And it's like, and the current music that they've been making is not really very punk at all. when it comes to mixing and just a lot of things in general. But I don't think Green Day suck. I think Green Day has a lot of good songs. I think they have a few really bad songs, and I think they have quite a few mediocre songs as well, but I don't think they suck. I'm gonna disagree with you there. That was basically my last hot take, so now I'm gonna share some hot takes with you all that I personally believe. So, and I actually have quite a few because I don't know, I'm just a very weird individual. So I have a lot of hot takes. Like I said, I'm only gonna tell you a few, but honestly, I think my first hot take is I'm just gonna say that Avenged Sevenfold's Life is But a Dream is a absolute masterpiece of a record, and it is the best album of 2024. I think it is incredible. I mean, a lot of people think it's horrible. They think it's messy. They think it's bad. I think it's amazing. And I also think another hot take is I think Cosmic is Avenged Sevenfold's best song. I think structurally it's their best song. Sonically, I think the writing is beautiful. It is amazing. I think it's their probably most emotional song. And I love this album so much. Like, just go give this album a listen, man. Like, every single song has something to offer for everyone, and that's what I just love about this album. And I think them experimenting and doing different things is not just, it's not them being lazy and just being like, let's just throw a bunch of ideas at the wall. It's them like coordinating all of this and taking so much time to make sure that this actually works into a album, and to make sure all the themes kind of clash in a interesting and a very, very cool way. And that's what they did. So go listen to Life is But a Dream. Life is But a Dream is a fantastic record, and I would highly recommend it. Now, here's my other hot take, which I'm just going to go out and say it. Some people might attack me, but I think Sleep Token is not a great, I think they are massively overrated. I think they're so overrated I can barely even begin to talk about how much I think they're overrated. Sleep Token is, for me, that feels like they're masquerading as like a really deep experimental heavy band, but it's like a lot of my issue with Sleep Token is actually the mixing of everything. I hate how they mix his voice of like so much, oh, sit up and I wake up so much, and I'm like, dude, stop, please. Like, no, it's not because British or anything, but it's just because I hate the way that they mix his voice with like so much like reverb and so much, like, someone called Sleep Token the Imagine Dragons of metal, and I actually completely agree with that. I don't hate Sleep Token. I still don't hate them. I hate the way that they produced like everything. Like, the drums can be very overblown and very reverb heavy, and I don't know, it's just not very it's supposed to be experimental, but I guess it is because you're still doing like trap music and like trap drums in your metal, but it's not a good combination. Like, the trap drums and the metal can be done right, but it's an extremely rough area that has to be, you have to be careful with it. I feel like they do not nail it, like, at all. Like, it just makes me like super, I don't know, I just don't like Sleep Token that much, like, at all. I just think they're kind of overrated. I don't understand people say they're like, oh man, I cried to this. Like, there's a spell. Like, I saw this long comment about how I couldn't cry for years and I listened to Sleep Token, and then they finally broke that deep spell. Which, by the way, I'm not making fun of you. I never want to make fun of anyone for having like music. Like, if it helped you like overcome some demons and just made you feel better, good for you, great for you. I'm glad you were able to get something amazing out of it. Me, I cannot. It's so flat, it's so boring. Like, to me, just the way that they mix it, the way that he sings, the auto-tune that they put on his voice is annoying. If it wasn't so produced, I actually think it would be much more interesting. Like, if it wasn't like so TikTokified and like, I don't know, I don't know, everything just, the guitars feel very bland a lot of the times, and it's just not that, I don't find it that good. That's just my hot take. Like, I know it's unpopular, so people can come and attack me or whatever, but that's just kind of my hot take, because I don't really agree. I don't think Sleep Token is that good. I think they're a little overrated. So yeah, that's basically my hot takes video, and I did want to address a few things. Like, I wanted to address a few bands. I want to address my channel, because this is actually, today is 5 years from the day that I actually started my YouTube channel, that I actually started this huge, incredible YouTube journey with you all. And I just want to say thank you all so much for making this channel possible. You have no idea how much, like, it truly means to me that I can just create content for you all, and I can truly just be myself and express myself in an amazing way. And this is really something that I've always wanted to do since